Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Gibbs Drops the Needle. I'm Gibbs. Some very sad news to report about on this episode is Dolly Parton has passed away at the age of 80. She is definitely an icon on the stage and off the stage as well. So we will get into the story of her passing. This is by Billboard.com. Says Dolly Parton died at the age of 80. She went through a brief battle with cancer, according to a statement that was released on the evening of August 25th by her team. Parton died at Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center in Nashville. Quote, "Our beloved Dolly Parton spent her life and career bringing joy, laughter, hope, and integrity into everything she touched. Her unmatched generosity reached the lives of countless people whom she would never meet, yet she was always there to offer a helping hand. Whether it be the hundreds of millions of books donated through her invaluable imagination library or funding research that helped create a life-saving vaccine used around the world, Dolly's unconditional love for all people was the guiding force for her lasting impact. After bravely facing a brief battle with cancer, Dolly departed her earthly life today at the Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center surrounded by loved ones." That was a statement signed simply Team Dolly. Her death was initially announced by her nephew Brian Seaver on the morning of August 25th. Without a cause came almost a year and a half after the death of her husband of nearly 60 years, Carl Dean, who died in March of 2025. Quote, "Dolly has lived in the light and is in the arms of Jesus, surely met by Carl, her parents, and countless others who had watched her and longed for her to meet them in the heavens," Seaver said. He would continue on, "She never saw a door she couldn't open, and the doors she opened made and changed history," end quote. Even in death, Parton displayed her trademark wit. Severs added, quote, "Dolly called me and said she wants to rest in a beautiful bed of plush cotton because after a life wearing heavy rhinestones, she finally deserves to be comfortable," end quote. So I'm not sure if it was well known that she was battling cancer or if this is something that she tried to hide from the public light, but at least to me this was a rather big surprise. I couldn't believe it when I heard the news. My wife actually told me because I was very busy yesterday and didn't have a lot of time to be on social media or anything. And when I got home, she said, "I'm sure you heard Dolly Parton passed away," and I just couldn't believe it. She is such an icon in not only the music industry but in the world for all the nice things that she's done. So we will go through her life, her career, and her legacy now and honor Dolly Parton's memory. Dolly Rebecca Parton was born on January 19th, 1946 in a one-room cabin on the banks of the Little Pigeon River in Pittman Center, Tennessee. She was the fourth of 12 children born to A.V. Lee Caroline and Robert Lee Parton Sr. Her siblings are Willa Dean, who was born in 1940, David Wilborn, who was born in 1942, Coy Denver, 1943, Robert Lee Bobby, born in 1948, Stella May, who was born in 1949, Cassie Nan, who was born in 1951, Randall Huston Randy, who was born in 1953, Larry Gerald, who was born in 1955, twins Frida Estelle, who was born in 1957, as well as Floyd Estelle, and Rachel Ann, who was born in 1959. Parton's middle name came from her maternal great-great-grandmother, Rebecca Whitted. Parton's father, known as Lee, worked in the mountains of East Tennessee, first as a sharecropper and later tending his own small tobacco farm and acreage. He also worked construction jobs to supplement the family's small income. Despite her father's illiteracy, Parton often said he was one of the smartest people she had ever known with regard to business and making profit. Parton's mother cared for their large family. Her 11 pregnancies, the 10th being twins, in 20 years made her a mother of 12 by the age of 35. Parton credited her musical abilities to her mother's influence. Often in poor health, she still managed to keep the house and entertain her children with Great Smoky Mountain folklore and old ballads. With Welsh ancestry, Avie Lee knew many songs that immigrants from Europe brought to southern Appalachia. Avie Lee's father, Jake Owens, was a Pentecostal preacher, and Parton and her siblings attended church regularly. Parton long credited her father for her business sense and her mother's family for her musical abilities. When she was a young girl, her family moved from the Pittman Center, Tennessee area to a 2-room cabin and farm on nearby Locust Ridge. Most of her cherished childhood memories happened there. A replica of the Locust Ridge cabin is on display at her namesake theme park at Dollywood. The farm acreage and surrounding woodland inspired her to write the song My Tennessee Mountain Home in the 1970s. Years after the farm was sold, Parton bought it back in the late 1980s. Her brother Bobby helped with building restoration and new construction. Parton said her family was dirt poor. Her father paid missionary Dr. Robert F. Thomas with a sack of cornmeal for delivering her. Later in life, Parton wrote a song about Dr. Thomas. She also outlined her family's poverty in her early songs Coat of Many Colors and In the Good Old Days, When Times Were Bad. The Parton small farm on Locust Ridge was in a predominantly Pentecostal area located north of the Green Brier Valley of the Great Smoky Mountains. Music played an important role in Parton's early life, and she was brought up in the Church of God in a congregation pastored by her grandfather, Jake Robert Owens. Her earliest public performances were in the church beginning at age 6. At 7, she started playing a homemade guitar. When she was 8, her uncle bought her first real guitar. The Parton family was well fed despite their poverty, and her 2024 cookbook, Good Lookin' Cookin', co-written with her sister Rachel, recalls numerous family meals. After graduating from the Sevier County High School in Sevierville, Tennessee, in 1964, Parton moved to Nashville, Tennessee the next day. As far as music, as I stated, she began performing as a child. She sang on local radio and television programs in the East Tennessee area. By age 10, she appeared on the Cause Walker Show on both WIVK Radio and WBIR TV in Knoxville, Tennessee. At the age of 13, she recorded the single Puppy Love for the Louisiana label Gold Band Records and appeared at the Grand Ole Opry, where she first met Johnny Cash. He introduced her as, quote, a little girl here from up in East Tennessee, and encouraged her to follow her own instincts regarding her career. Parton's initial success came as a songwriter. She signed with Combine Publishing shortly after her arrival in Nashville. Working with her frequent songwriting partner, her uncle Bill Owens, she wrote several charting singles, including 2 top 10 hits for Bill Phillips, Put It Off Until Tomorrow, and The Company You Keep. She also wrote Skeeter Davis's number 11 hit, Fuel to the Flame. Her songs were recorded by many other artists during this period, including Kitty Wells and Hank Williams Jr. So even at such a young age, making such a big impact when it comes to writing for these very well-known people. At age 19, she signed with Monument Records in 1965, where she was initially pitched as a bubblegum pop singer. She released several singles, but only Happy Happy Birthday Baby charted, and it did not reach the Billboard Hot 100. Although she wanted to record country material, Monument resisted, thinking her unusually high soprano voice was not suited for the genre. After Bill Phillips's recording of her composition, Put It Off Until Tomorrow, reached number 6 on the country chart in 1966, the label relented and allowed her to record country. Her first country single, Dumb Blonde, written by Curly Putman, reached number 24 on the country chart in 1967. It was followed by Something Fishy, which reached number 17. Both singles appeared on her first full-length album, Hello, I'm Dolly. In 1967, musician and country music entertainer Porter Wagoner invited Parton to join the Porter Wagoner Show, offering her a regular spot on his weekly syndicated television program and in his roadshow. As documented in her 1994 autobiography, much of Wagner's audience was initially unhappy that Parton had replaced previous performer Norma Jean, who had left the show sometimes chanting loudly for Norma Jean from the audience. With Wagner's assistance, Parton was eventually accepted. Wagner convinced his label, RCA Victor, to sign her. RCA decided to protect its investment by releasing her first single as a duet with Wagner. That song, a remake of Tom Paxton's The Last Thing on My Mind, released in the late 1967, reached the country top 10 in January of 1968, launching a 6-year streak of uninterrupted top 10 singles for the pair. Parton's first solo single for RCA Victor, Just Because I'm a Woman, was released in the summer of 1968 and reached number 17. For the next 2 years, none of her solo efforts, even in the good old days, which later became a standard, were as successful as her duets with Wagner. The duo was named Vocal Group of the Year in 1968 by the Country Music Association, but Parton's solo records were continuing to be ignored. Wagner had significant financial stake in her future. As of 1969, he was her co-producer and owned nearly half of Opar, the publishing company Parton had founded with Bill Owens. By 1970, both Parton and Wagner had grown frustrated by her lack of solo chart success. Wagner persuaded Parton to record Jimmie Rogers' Mule Skinner Blues, a gimmick that worked. The record reached number 3, followed by her first number 1 single, Joshua, in February of 1971. For the next 2 years, she had numerous solo hits in addition to her duets, including her signature song, Coat of Many Colors, which reached number 4 in 1971. Further top 20 singles included The Right Combination and Burning the Midnight Oil, both duets with Wagner in 1971, Lost Forever in Your Kiss with Wagner, Touch Your Woman, 1972, My Tennessee Mountain Home, and Travelin' Man in 1973. Although her solo singles and the Wagner duets were successful, her biggest hit of this period was Jolene. Released in late 1973, the song topped the country chart in February of 1974 and reached the lower regions of the Hot 100. It also eventually charted in the UK, reaching number 7 in 1976, representing Dolly's first UK success. Parton, who had always envisioned a solo career, decided to leave Wagner's show and stop appearing in mid-1974. The pair performed their last duet concert in April of 1974, although they remained affiliated, with Wagner helping to produce her records through 1975. Their final release as a duo was 1975's Say Forever You'll Be Mine. In 1974, Parton's song I Will Always Love You, written about her professional break from Wagner, went to number 1 on the country chart. Around the same time, Elvis Presley indicated that he wanted to record the song. Parton was interested until Presley's manager, Colonel Tom Parker, told her that it was standard procedure for the songwriter to sign over half of the publishing rights to any song recorded by Presley. Parton refused. That decision was later credited with earning her millions of dollars in royalties from that song. In 1974, Parton had 3 solo singles reach number 1 on the country chart: Jolene, I Will Always Love You, and Love Is Like a Butterfly, and the duet with Wagner, Please Don't Stop Loving Me. She again topped the singles chart in 1975 with The Bargain Store. Between 1974 and 1980, Parton had a series of country hits, with 8 singles reaching number 1. Her influence on pop culture was reflected in the many performers who covered her songs, including mainstream and crossover artists such as Olivia Newton-John, Emmylou Harris, and Linda Ronstadt. Parton began a high-profile crossover campaign, aiming her music in a more mainstream direction and increasing her visibility outside country music. In 1976, she began working closely with Sandy Gallen, who became her personal manager for the next 25 years. With her 1976 album, All I Can Do, which she co-produced with Wagner, Parton took a more active role in production and began specifically aiming her music toward a pop audience. So kind of interesting that she started out with a record company wanting her to go in a pop direction and persuading them to let her go in a country direction, and then she reaches a point where she wants to go back to a more pop audience. Her first self-produced effort, New Harvest First Gathering in 1977, highlighted her pop sensibilities in both song choice and production. The album included covers of the pop and R&B classics My Girl and Higher and Higher. Though well received and topping the U.S. Country Albums chart, neither the album nor its single Light of a Clear Blue Morning made much impact on the pop charts. After New Harvest's unsuccessful crossover performance, Parton turned to pop producer Gary Klein for her next album. The result, 1977's Here You Come Again, became her first million seller, topping the country album chart and reaching number 20 on the pop chart. The Barry Mann Cynthia Weil penned title track topped the country singles chart and became Parton's first top 10 single on the pop chart at number 3. A second single, the double A-sided Two Doors Down, It's All Wrong But It's All Right, topped the country chart and crossed into the pop top 20. For the remainder of the 1970s and into the early 1980s, many of her singles climbed both charts simultaneously. Her albums during this period were developed specifically for pop crossover success. In 1974, Parton won a Grammy Award for Best Female Country Vocal Performance for her album Here You Come Again. She continued to have hits with Heartbreaker in 1978, Baby I'm Burning in 1979, and You're the Only One also in 1979, all which charted in the Pop Top 40 and topped the country charts. Sweet Summer Lovin' of 1979 became her first single in 2 years not to top the country chart, though it reached number 10. Her visibility increased with multiple television appearances. Parton submitted to a highly publicized candid interview on Barbara Walters' special in 1977, timed to coincide with her album Here You Come Again's release. Against her friend's advice, Walters was somewhat dismissive, saying, quote, "You don't have to look like this," and asking, "Do you ever feel that you're a joke?" Parton showed that she was deliberately in control of her image, replying, smiling, quote, "The joke's on the public. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I can change it any time. I'm sure of myself. I'm sure of my talent." End quote. In 1978, she appeared on Cher's ABC television special and her own joint CBS special with Carol Burnett, Dolly and Carol in Nashville. Parton served as one of 3 co-hosts, along with Roy Clark and Glenn Cable, on the CBS special 50 Years of Country Music. In 1979, she hosted the NBC special The 70s, An Explosion of Country Music at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C., a performance attended by President Jimmy Carter. Her commercial success grew in 1980, with 3 consecutive number 1 country hits, Starting Over Again, Old Flames Can't Hold a Candle to You, and 9 to 5, which topped both the country and pop charts in early 1981. She had another top 10 single that year, Making Plans, from her 1980 album with Wagner, released as part of a lawsuit settlement between the pair. The theme song from the 1980 featured film 9 to 5, in which she starred with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin, reached number 1 on the country, pop, and adult contemporary charts in February of 1981, giving her a triple number 1 hit. Parton became one of the few female country singers to have a number 1 single on the country and pop charts simultaneously. The song received a nomination for an Academy Award for Best Original Song. Her singles continued to appear consistently in the country top 10. Between 1981 and 1985, she had 12 top 10 hits, half of them reaching number 1. She continued to make inroads on the pop charts. A re-recorded version of I Will Always Love You from the featured film The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas in 1982 reached the lower end of the top 50 that year, and her duet with Kenny Rogers' Islands in the Stream, written by the Bee Gees and produced by Barry Gibb, spent 2 weeks at number 1 in 1983. In the mid-1980s, her record sales were still relatively strong. Save the Last Dance for Me, Tennessee Homesick Blues, God Won't Get You, Real Love, another duet with Kenny Rogers, Don't Call It Love, and Think About Love all reached the country top 10. Tennessee Homesick Blues, Think About Love, and Real Love reached number 1 and became modest crossover hits. Despite this success, RCA Records did not renew her contract after it expired in 1986, and she signed with Columbia Records in 1987. Along with Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt, Parton released Trio in 1987 to critical acclaim. The album revitalized Parton's music career, spending 5 weeks at number 1 on Billboard's Country Albums chart and reaching the top 10 on the Billboard 200. It sold several million copies and produced 4 top 10 country hits, including Phil Spector's To Know Him Is to Love Him, which went to number 1. Trio won the Grammy Award for Best Country Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocal and was nominated for Album of the Year. After a further attempt at pop success with Rainbow in 1987, which included the single The River Unbroken, its poor commercial performance led Parton to refocus on country material. White Limousine in 1989 produced 2 number 1 hits, Why'd You Come In Here Lookin' Like That and Yellow Roses. Although her career appeared revived, it proved brief before contemporary country music in the early 1990s moved most veteran artists off the charts. A duet with Ricky Van Shelton, Rockin' Years, in 1991 reached number 1, though Parton's greatest commercial fortune of the decade came when Whitney Houston recorded I Will Always Love You for the soundtrack of The Bodyguard in 1992. Both the single and the album were massively successful. Parton's own soundtrack album from the 1992 film Straight Talk was less successful. Her 1993 album, Slow Dancing with the Moon, earned positive reviews from critics and achieved strong chart success, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Top Country Albums chart and number 16 on the Billboard 200. It was later certified platinum. In 1993, she recorded The Day I Fall in Love as a duet with James Ingram for the feature film Beethoven's Second. Songwriters Ingram, Carol Bayer Sager, and Cliff Magnus were nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Song, and Parton and Ingram performed it at the telecast. Similar to her early collaborative album with Harris and Ronstadt, Parton released Honky Tonk Angels in the fall of 1993 with Loretta Lynn and Tammy Wynette. It was certified gold by the Recording Industry Association of America and helped revive both Wynette and Lynn's careers. Also in 1994, Parton contributed You Gotta Be My Baby to the AIDS benefit album Red Hot and Country, produced by the Red Hot organization. A live acoustic album, Heart Songs Live from Home, featuring stripped-down versions of her hits and traditional songs, was released later that year. Parton's recorded music during the mid to late 1990s remained steady and eclectic. Her 1995 re-recording of I Will Always Love You, performed as a duet with Vince Gill from her album Something Special, won the Country Music Association's Vocal Event of the Year award. In 1996, she released Treasures, an album of covers of 1960s and 1970s hits, featuring material by Mac Davis, Pete Seeger, Chris Christopherson, Cat Stevens, and Neil Young. Her recording of Stevens' Peace Train was later remixed and released as a dance single, reaching Billboard's dance single charts. Her 1998 country rock album, Hungry Again, consisted entirely of her own compositions, although neither of its singles, Why Don't More Women Sing Honky Tonk Songs and Salt in My Tears, charted. Videos for both songs received significant airplay on CMT. A second, more contemporary collaboration with Harris and Ronstadt, Trio 2, was released in early of 1999. Its cover of Neil Young's After the Gold Rush won a Grammy Award for Best Country Collaboration with Vocals. Parton was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 1999. Parton recorded a series of bluegrass-inspired albums, beginning with The Grass is Blue in 1999, which won the Grammy Award for Best Bluegrass Album, and Little Sparrow in 2001, whose cover of Collective Soul Shine won the Grammy Award for Best Female Country Vocal Performance. The third, Halo and Horns, in 2002, included a bluegrass version of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. In 2005, she released Those Were the Days, consisting of her interpretations of folk rock hits from the late 1960s and early 1970s, including Imagine, Where Do the Children Play, Crimson and Clover, and Where Have All the Flowers Gone. Parton earned her second Academy Award nomination for Best Original Song for Travelin' Through, which she wrote specifically for the feature film Transamerica in 2005. Because the song and film centered on a transgendered woman, Parton received death threats. She returned to number 1 on the country chart later in 2005 by lending her harmonies to Brad Paisley's ballad When I Get Where I'm Going. In September of 2007, she released her first single on her own label, Dolly Records, Better Get to Livin', which peaked at number 48 on Billboard's Hot Country chart. It was followed by the studio album Backwoods Barbie, released on February 26th of 2008, which reached number 1 on the country chart. Its debut at number 17 on the all-genre Billboard 200 albums chart was the highest of her career. The album produced 4 additional singles, including the title track written as part of her score for 9 to 5 the musical. After the death of Michael Jackson, whom Parton knew personally, she released a video expressing her feelings about him and his death. On October 27th of 2009, Parton released a 4-CD box set, Dolly, featuring 99 songs spanning most of her career. She released her second live DVD and album, Live from London, in October of 2009, filmed during her sold-out 2008 concerts at London's The O2 Arena. On August 10th of 2010, Parton's longtime friend Billy Ray Cyrus released the album Brother Clyde. Parton was featured on the track The Right Time, which she co-wrote with Cyrus and Morris Joseph Tancredi on January 6th of 2011. On January 6th of 2011, Parton announced her new album Better Day. In February of 2011, she announced the Better Day World Tour beginning July 17th of 2011 with shows in Northern Europe and US. The album's lead-off single, Together You and I, was released on May 23rd of 2011, and Better Day followed on June 28th of 2011. Also in 2011, Parton voiced Dolly Nome in the animated film Romeo and Juliet. On February 11th of 2012, after the sudden death of Whitney Houston, Parton stated, quote, "Mine is only one of the millions of hearts broken over the death of Whitney Houston. I will always be grateful and in awe of the wonderful performance she did on my song, and I can truly say from the bottom of my heart, Whitney, I will always love you. You will be missed," end quote. In 2013, Parton joined Lulu Roman for a re-recording of I Will Always Love You for Roman's albums At Last. In 2013, Parton and Kenny Rogers reunited for the title song of his album You Can't Make Old Friends. For their performance, they were nominated at the 2014 Grammy Awards for the Grammy Award for Best Country Duo/Group Performance. In 2014, Parton embarked on the Blue Smoke World Tour in support of her 42nd studio album, Blue Smoke. That is crazy, that 42nd studio album. That's an insane amount of discography for someone. The album was first released in Australia and in New Zealand on January 31 to coincide with tour dates there in February and reached number 1 on album charts in both countries. It was released in the United States on May 13th and debuted at number 6 on the Billboard 200 chart, making her first top 10 album and her highest charting solo album ever. It also reached the number 2 on the US country chart. The album was released in Europe on June 9th and reached number 2 on the UK album chart. On June 29, 2014, Parton performed for the first time at the UK Glastonbury Festival, singing songs such as Jolene, 9 to 5, and Coat of Many Colors to a crowd of more than 180,000. On March 6 of 2013, Parton announced that she would be embarking on a tour in support of her new album, Pure and Simple. The tour was one of Parton's biggest tours within the United States in more than 25 years. 64 dates were planned in the United States and Canada, visiting the most requested markets missed on previous tours. So there again, I just feel like everything that she did was just with the thought of someone else in mind. There she planned a tour for markets that she hadn't been to on previous tours. So I think that that's great that she wanted to embark on something like that and allow maybe areas that didn't get to see her live get to see her live. In the fall of 2016, she released Jolene as a single with the a cappella group Pentatonix and performed on The Voice with Pentatonix and Miley Cyrus in November of 2016. Also in 2016, Parton was one of 30 artists to perform on Forever Country, a mashup of the songs Take Me Home Country Roads, On the Road Again, and her own I Will Always Love You. The song celebrates 50 years of the CMA Awards. At the ceremony itself, Parton was honored with the Willie Nelson Lifetime Achievement Award, which was presented by Lily Tomlin and preceded by a tribute featuring Jennifer Nettles, Pentatonix, Reba McEntire, Casey Musgraves, Carrie Underwood, and Martina McBride. In 2017, Parton appeared on Rainbow, the third studio album by Kesha, performing a duet of Old Flames Can't Hold a Candle to You. The track had been co-written by Kesha's mother, Phoebe Siebert. It was previously a hit for Parton and was included on her 1980 album, Dolly Dolly Dolly. She also co-wrote and provided featuring vocals on the song Rainbow Land and Younger Now, the sixth album by her goddaughter Miley Cyrus. In July of 2019, Parton made an unannounced appearance at the Newport Folk Festival in Rhode Island and performed several songs accompanied by the Highwomen and Linda Perry. In 2019, Parton collaborated with Christian alternative rock duet For King and Country and released a version of their hit God Only Knows. She followed this by recording a duet with Christian music artist Zach Williams in the song There Was Jesus. In 2020, Parton received worldwide attention after posting 4 pictures in which she showed how she would present herself on social media platforms like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The original post on Instagram went viral after celebrities posted their own versions of the so-called Dolly Parton challenge on social media. On April 10th of 2020, Parton re-released 93 songs from 6 of her classic albums, Little Sparrow, Halos and Horns, For God and Country, Better Days, Those Were the Days, and Live and Well. On May 27th of 2020, Parton released the song When Life is Good Again to lift the spirits of those affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. She also released a music video for the song, which premiered on Time 100 Talks on May 28th of 2020. In October of 2020, Parton was featured on the single Pink alongside Monica, Jordan Sparks, Sarah Evans, and Rita Wilson. The single was released in an aid of breast cancer research. Parton released a Holly Dolly Christmas in October of 2020. On December 6, CBS aired a special, A Holly Dolly Christmas, where Parton performed songs from her album. In 2021, a duet version of the song Does He Love You with singer Reba McEntire was released. In early 2022, Parton was nominated for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Parton initially declined the nomination, believing that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was, quote, for the people in rock music, end quote. But after learning that this was not the case, Parton said she would accept her induction if she were chosen for the honor. In May, her induction was announced, and on November 5th of 2022, she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In October of 2022, Parton stated in an interview that she would no longer tour but would continue to play live shows occasionally. On December 31st of 2022, Parton co-hosted NBC's New Year's special, Miley's New Year's Eve Party. On January 17th of 2023, Parton announced she would release her first rock album titled Rockstar later that year during an interview on The View. This I thought was so great that, one, she recognized that maybe she wasn't a rock artist, even though, as we've learned by going through this, she had put out folk rock albums and done rock covers before. So she was obviously eligible for this award. And plus, rock music doesn't always have to be loud guitars and loud drums and aggressive vocals. It can be all kinds of different things, and especially back when she was an artist, rock was classified as something different. You know, you had Johnny Cash was a rock artist for those days, and just things that you maybe wouldn't think of being considered rock nowadays was considered rock back then. And I thought it just awesome that she put out a rock album after she got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And honestly, this was the one Dolly Parton album that I've listened to from start to finish. I had always known her popular hits, but had never really listened to a whole album of hers. And when she came out with this and I saw the collaborations on the album, I just immediately wanted to go check it out. And it was a great album. She put her own Dolly Parton spin on things, as you would imagine she would do. And it was a good album, and awesome that she wanted to put something out there in the rock genre. So moving on from that, the lead single was World on Fire, which was released on May 11th of 2023 and peaked at number 1 a week later. The album was released on November 17th of 2023 and featured collaborations with Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Sting, Elton John, Sheryl Crow, Steve Perry, Miley Cyrus, and Lizzo, among others. The album received generally positive reviews from critics and debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, becoming Parton's highest charting solo studio album, as well as topping the country and rock album charts. On January 20th of 2023, the soundtrack single Gonna Be You from the movie 80 for Brady was released. The song was written by Diane Warren and performed by Dolly Parton, Belinda Carlisle, Cyndi Lauper, Debbie Harry, and Gloria Estefan. The official music video shows Parton, Carlisle, Lauper, and Estefan performing while wearing football jerseys similar to the ones worn by the women in the film, interspersed with clips from the film. On March 29th of 2024, Parton was featured on Beyoncé's 8th studio album, Cowboy Carter, being involved in the introduction to the reinterpretation of Jolene by her colleague, in which Parton associates the character of Jolene with Becky from the track Sorry on Beyoncé's album Lemonade, and as a featured artist on the track Tyrant. February 14th of 2025, Parton featured on Sabrina Carpenter's song Please 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 on the deluxe edition of her album Short and Sweet, and its accompanying music video. On March 7th of 2025, Parton released the single If You Hadn't Been There as a tribute to her husband, who had died a week before. In the United Kingdom, the single peaked at number 21 on the sales and downloads charts components. In 2025, Dolly Parton recorded a new version of the 1985 single Home Sweet Home with Motley Crue, marking the song's 40th anniversary. The track was released on the band's compilation From the Beginning, with a portion of the proceeds benefiting Covenant House, a charity supporting homeless youth. The collaboration returned a favor Parton had extended 2 years earlier when she invited Motley Crue's Nikki Sixx and John 5 to contribute to her 2023 rock album, Rockstars. Parton planned to begin a 6-date Las Vegas residency, Dolly Live in Las Vegas at Caesars Palace in 2025, but then postponed and canceled it. On January 16th of 2026, in anticipation of her 80th birthday, Parton released a rendition of the song Light of a Clear Blue Morning, featuring several celebrity guests: Queen Latifah, Lainey Wilson, Miley Cyrus, Reba McEntire, David Foster. On March 13th of 2026, Parton made her first major appearance since the health scare to give the keynote address at Dollywood during the 41st anniversary celebration. She made her last public appearance on June 2026, appearing at the grand opening of a truck stop off Interstate 65 in Cornersville, Tennessee, that was being named in her honor. On August 14th of 2026, over a week before her passing, Parton was set to attend the grand opening of Night Flight Expedition, a new ride at the Dollywood theme park. Instead, she appeared in a recorded video from her home in Nashville to explain that because of health issues, she could not appear in person. So that was Dolly Parton's music career. Moving on to who she was as a person, Parton was known for her charisma, strong connection with fans, and characteristic wit. For example, when asked by a teenager what advice she would give American teenagers, she replied, quote, "Act like it's raining every day and wear your rubbers," end quote. Parton had turned down several offers to pose nude for Playboy magazine, but did appear on the cover of the October 1978 issue wearing a Playboy bunny outfit, complete with ears. The issue featured Lauren Scrable's extensive and candid interview with Parton, representing one of her earliest high-profile interviews with the mainstream press. The association of breasts with Dolly Parton's public image is illustrated in the naming of Dolly the sheep after her, since the sheep was cloned from a cell taken from an adult ewe's mammary gland. In Mobile, Alabama, the General Y.K. Wilson Jr. Bridge is commonly called the Dolly Parton Bridge due to its arches resembling her bust. The thickened appearance of the turret frontal armor of the T-72A main battle tank led to the unofficial Army nickname of Dolly Parton, and later the T-72BIs got the Super Dolly Parton nickname. Parton was known for having undergone considerable plastic surgery. On a 2003 episode of The Oprah Winfrey Show, Winfrey asked what kind of cosmetic surgery Parton had undergone. Parton replied that cosmetic surgery was imperative in keeping her famous image. Parton repeatedly joked about her physical image and surgery, saying, quote, "It takes a lot of money to look this cheap," end quote. When asked about future plastic surgery, she said, quote, "If I see something sagging, bagging, or dragging, I'll get it nipped, tucked, or sucked," end quote. Parton's feminine escapism was acknowledged in her own words, quote, "Womanhood was a difficult thing to get a grip on in those hills unless you were a man." Parton said in 2012 that she had entered a Dolly Parton drag queen look-alike contest and lost. As for Dolly Parton's influences, she was influenced by big-name stars, but often credited much of her inspiration to her family and community. In her 2020 book, Songteller, My Life and Lyrics, Parton wrote of her mother, quote, "So it was just natural for my mom to always be singing. My mother had the old-timey voice, and she used to sing all these songs that were brought over from the old world. They were English, Irish, Welsh folk songs where people tell stories," end quote. Parton calls her mother's voice haunting, saying that you could feel it. Her biggest influence was her Aunt Dorothy Jo. Quote, "People often ask me who my influences were. They think I'm going to say some big names, and there were a few stars I was impressed with, but my hero was my Aunt Dorothy Jo, Mama's baby sister. She was not only an evangelist, she played banjo, she played guitar, and she wrote some great songs," end quote. Fellow singers also had an impact on Parton. She described George Jones as her all-time favorite singer, as well as mentioning her love for other artists such as Kitty Wells, Roy Acuff, and Rose Maddox. Although she was unable to read sheet music, Parton was raised in a family that enjoyed making music, including at church. She learned how to write songs and play many instruments, including the dulcimer, auto harp, banjo, guitar, electric guitar, fiddle, piano, recorder, and saxophone. Reflecting on her abilities, Parton said, quote, "I play some of everything. I ain't that good at none of it, but I try to sell it. I really try to lay into it," end quote. Parton also used her fingernails as an instrument, most evident on her 1980s song 9 to 5, where she derived the beat from clacking her nails together while backstage on the set of the film 9 to 5. As for songwriting, Parton was a prolific songwriter, writing country music songs with strong elements of folk music and her upbringing in humble mountain surroundings, as well as reflecting her family's Christian background. Her songs Coat of Many Colors, I Will Always Love You, and Jolene, among others, became classics. On November 4th of 2003, Parton was honored as a BMI icon at the 2003 BMI Country Awards. Parton earned over 35 BMI Pop and Country Awards. In 2001, she was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. In a 2009 interview on CNN's Larry King Live, she said she had written, quote, "at least 3,000 songs, having written seriously since the age of 7. Parton also said she writes something every day, be it a song or an idea. Parton's songwriting was featured prominently in several films. Parton also wrote the score for the 9 to 5 The Musical, a musical theater adaptation of Parton's featured film 9 to 5. The musical ran at the Ahmanson Theater in Los Angeles in late 2008. It opened on Broadway at the Marquis Theater in New York on April 30th of 2009 to mixed reviews. The title track of her 2008 album, Backwoods Barbie, was written for the musical's character Dora Lee. Although her score was praised, the show struggled, closing on September 6th of 2009 after 24 previews and 148 performances. Parton received nominations for the Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Music and Drama Desk Award for Outstanding Lyrics, and a nomination for Tony Awards for Best Original Score. Developing the musical was not a quick process. According to the public radio program Studio 360, in October of 2005, Parton was in the midst of composing songs for a Broadway musical theater adaptation of the film. In late June of 2007, 9 to 5 the musical was read in industry presentations. The readings starred Megha Hilty, Allison Janney, Stephanie J. Block, Bebe Neuwirth, and Mark Kaddish. Ambassador Theatre Group announced a 2012 UK tour for Dolly Parton's 9 to 5 the Musical, commencing at Manchester Opera House on October 12th of 2012. There was also another musical featuring Dolly Parton called Dolly, a True Original Musical. In June of 2024, Parton announced an autobiographical musical about her life and career, initially titled Hello, I'm Dolly, named after her debut album, and also a play on Hello Dolly, with a goal of opening on Broadway in 2026 with direction by Bartlett Sher. The musical, with a co-written book by Parton and Maria S. Schalter, features original songs as well as her more well-known hits. Parton also revealed that she had been working on the musical for the last decade. The title was promoted as Dolly, an original musical, on December 6th, coinciding with a nationwide casting call for actresses to play Parton through different stages of her life, using the hashtag #SearchForDolly on social media video post. The show opened as Dolly, a True Original Musical, at the Belmont University Fisher Center for the Performing Arts in Nashville in July of 2025. Parton invested much of her earnings into business ventures in her native East Tennessee, notably Pigeon Forge, which I had just went to. She was a co-owner of the Dollywood Company, which operates the theme park, a former Silver Dollar City, a dinner theater, Dolly Parton Stampede, the water park, Dolly Parton Splash Country, and the Dream More Resort and Spa, all in Pigeon Forge. With 3.1 million visitors in 2024, Dollywood is among the 20 most popular theme parks in the United States and the 5th most popular theme park that operates seasonally. The Dolly Parton Stampede business has venues in Branson, Missouri, and Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. In 2011, the Myrtle Beach Stampede location was redesigned under the name Pirates Voyage, and the show later expanded to Tennessee and Florida locations. A former location in Orlando, Florida, closed in January of 2008 after the land and building were sold to a developer. Dolly was honored with proclamations of Dolly Parton Day multiple times. In 1970, her hometown, Sevierville, Tennessee, declared one day to be Dolly Parton Day. In 2011, the South Carolina General Assembly declared June 3, 2011, as Dolly Parton Day in connection with the grand opening of Pirate's Voyage in Myrtle Beach. In 2026, the state of Tennessee declared her 80th birthday to be Dolly Parton Day in the state. On January 19th of 2012, coinciding with Dolly Parton's 66th birthday, Gaylord Opryland and Dollywood announced a 50-50 joint venture to develop a 114-acre family entertainment zone in Nashville, featuring a $50 million combination water and snow park as its first phase. In September of 2012, Parton officially withdrew her support for the Nashville Park due to the restructuring of Gaylord Entertainment Company after its merger with Marriott International. In June of 2015, the Dollywood Company purchased the Lumberjack Feud dinner show in Pigeon Forge. The show, which opened in June of 2011, was owned and operated by Rob Scheer until the close of the 2015 season. The new renovated show by the Dollywood Company opened in 2016. Some of her other business ventures: beginning in 2022, Dolly partnered with Duncan Hines, a brand of ConAgra brands, to launch a line of Southern-inspired cake mixes and frostings. A limited edition collection sold out online upon its release, with the product subsequently distributed to retailers nationwide. The line expanded in 2023 to include brownie, cornbread, and biscuit mixes, and in January of 2024, Parton entered an exclusive licensing agreement with ConAgra to develop products across additional food categories, including frozen, refrigerated, grocery, and snack foods. Parton also expanded into kitchen and housewares through licensing agreements with Lifetime Brands and Lodge, including cookware, bakeware, tabletop goods, and kitchen tools. An approximately 50-item collection developed for Dollar General debuted nationwide in 2024. In October of 2025, Parton announced she would open her Songteller Hotel in downtown Nashville in partnership with her firm Herschend. With the hotel, Parton will also be opening her new Dolly's Life and Many Colors Museum, which claims to be the largest exhibit celebrating her life anywhere to date. Advance tickets for the museum's opening in June 2026 went on sale October 29th of 2025. On May 26th of 2026, it was announced that Dolly's Tunisian travel stop would open on June 24th of 2026. The travel stop, quote, will include a general store, a full-service sit-down cafe, and a restaurant offering DLY barbecue, as well as Dolly's Cup of Ambition coffee. It is located at Exit 22 off I-65 in Cornersville, Tennessee, approximately 1 hour south of Nashville. Dolly Parton also did some production work. She was the co-owner of Sand Productions with Sandy Gallen, her former manager. A film and television production company had produced the documentary Common Thread Stories from the Quilt in 1989, which won an Academy Award for Best Documentary Feature. The television series Babes from 1990 to 1991, Buffy the Vampire Slayer from 1997-2003, and Angel from 1999 to 2004, and the featured films Father of the Bride, 1991, Father of the Bride Part 2 in 1995, Straight Talk in 1992, in which Parton starred, and Sabrina in 1995, among other shows. In a 2009 interview, singer Connie Francis revealed that Parton had been contacting her for years in an attempt to film the singer's life story. Francis turned down Parton's offers as she was already in negotiations with singer Gloria Estefan to produce the film. A collaboration now ended. After the retirement of Sandy Gallen, Parton briefly operated Dolly Parton's Southern Light Productions. In 2015, she announced that her new production company, Dixie Pixie Productions, would produce the movies of the week in development with NBC Television and Magnolia Hill Productions. She also did some acting In 1979, she received an Emmy Award nomination as Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Variety Program for her guest appearance in a Cher special. During the mid-1970s, Parton wanted to expand her audience base. Although her first attempt, the television variety show Dolly from 1976 to 1977, had high ratings, it lasted only one season, with Parton requesting to be released from her contract because of the stress it was causing on her vocal cords. She later tried a second television variety show, also titled Dolly, from 1987 to 1988. It too lasted only one season. In her first featured film, Parton portrayed a secretary in a leading role with Jane Fonda and Lily Tomlin in the comedy film 9 to 5. The movie highlights discrimination against women in the workplace and created awareness of the National Association of Working Women. She received nominations for a Golden Globe Award for Best Actress, Musical or Comedy, and a Golden Globe Award for New Star of the Year Actress. Parton wrote and recorded the film's title song. It received nominations for an Academy Award for Best Song and a Golden Globe Award for Best Original Song. In 1981, Parton began filming her second film, the musical film The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. The film earned her a second nomination for Golden Globe Award for Best Actress, Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy. The film was greeted with positive critical reviews and became a commercial success, earning over $69 million worldwide. After a 2-year hiatus from films, Parton was teamed with Sylvester Stallone for Rhinestone in 1984, a comedy film about a country music star's efforts to mold an unknown into a music sensation. The film was a critical and financial failure, making just over $21 million on a $28 million budget. In 1989, Parton returned to film acting in Steel Magnolias, based on the play of the same name by Robert Harling. The film was popular with critics and audiences, grossing over $95 million in the U.S. Dolly starred in the television movies A Smoky Mountain Christmas in 1986, Wild Texas Wind in 1991, Unlikely Angel in 1996, portraying an angel sent back to Earth after a deadly car crash, and Blue Valley Songbird in 1999, where her character lives through her music. She starred with James Woods in Straight Talk in 1992, which received mixed reviews and grossed a mild $21 million at the box office. She made a cameo appearance as herself in the Beverly Hillbillies in 1993, an adaptation of the TV sitcom The Beverly Hillbillies from 1962 to 1971. Parton done voice work for animation for television series, playing the character Katrina Alloy's Murphy in Miss Frizzle's First Cousin, in the Magic School Bus episode The Family Holiday Special. She guest starred in several sitcoms, including a 1990 episode of Designing Women, episode The First Day of the Last Decade of the Entire 20th Century, as herself the Guardian movie star of Charlene's Baby. She made a guest appearance on Reba episode Reba's Rules of Real Estate, portraying a real estate agency owner, and on The Simpsons episode Sunday Cruddy Sunday in 1999. She appeared as herself in 2000 on the Halloween episode of Bette Midler's short-lived sitcom Bet, and on episode 14 of Babes, produced by Sand Dollar Productions, Parton and Sandy Gallen's joint production company. She made cameo appearances on the Disney Channel as Aunt Dolly, visiting Hannah and her family in fellow Tunisian and real-life goddaughter Miley Cyrus's series Hannah Montana. Dolly appeared as an overproductive mother in the comedy Frank McCluskey's CI in 2002. She made a cameo appearance in the comedy film Miss Congeniality 2, Armed and Fabulous in 2005, starring Sandra Bullock. She was featured in The Book Lady in 2008, a documentary about her campaign for children's literacy. Parton expected to reprise her television role as Hannah Montana's godmother in the musical comedy film Hannah Montana the Movie, but the character was omitted from the screenplay. In June of 2018, Parton announced an 8-part Netflix series featuring her music career. She was its executive producer and co-star. The series, called Dolly Parton's Heartstrings, aired in November of 2019. In December of 2019, the biographical documentary Here I Am was added to the catalog of the Netflix streaming service. The documentary, and co-production of Netflix and the BBC, takes its name from Parton's 1971 song. In November of 2020, Parton produced and starred in the Netflix musical film Dolly Parton's Christmas on the Square, which won her a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Television Movie. In November of 2021, Parton was confirmed to be appearing in the final season of Grace and Frankie in a guest starring role, reuniting with her 9 to 5 co-stars Lily Tomlin and Jane Fonda. In July of 2022, Parton appeared as a simulation of herself on the sci-fi show The Orville in the episode Midnight Blue. In December of 2022, Parton appeared in an NBC special titled Dolly Parton's Mountain Magic Christmas. On Thanksgiving of 2023, Parton performed songs during the halftime at the Washington Commanders and Dallas Cowboys NFL football game. Getting back to more of her personal life, faith growing up, Dolly Parton grew up attending her grandfather's Pentecostal church. In an interview with New Humanist magazine in 2024, she spoke of a more open outlook towards faith, saying that, quote, "Whether you believe in God or not, whether you call it Mother Nature or Father Time or a higher wisdom, you need to believe in yourself, and you need to believe there's a force that can push you and lead you on." And added, "I'm not a religious fanatic. I wouldn't even say I'm religious, though I grew up in that background." End quote. Separately, Parton also referred to herself as a person of faith and a very spiritual person. In a 2020 interview with the Mary Claire magazine, she stated that, quote, "Every single day before I do anything, I wake up and I thank God for the night, and I ask Him to bless the day and bring all the right things, all the wrong people out of my life, and bring all the right stuff in, and just to guide me, lead me, and I always pray that He'll let me uplift mankind and glorify Him." End quote. As I briefly mentioned earlier, Dolly was married. She arrived in Nashville on a Saturday morning in 1964, the day after graduating from Sevier County High School. After starting her laundry inside the wishy-washy laundromat, she got a cold drink and stepped outside. Carl Thomas Dean, a Nashville native, pulled up along the sidewalk where she was standing. He mentioned she might get sunburnt because of the style of shirt she was wearing. Following that interaction, they began a conversation. They were married in Ringgold, Georgia on May 30th of 1966. Although Parton did not use Dean's surname professionally, it was used in her personal life. Her passport read Dolly Parton Dean, and she sometimes used Dean when signing contracts. Dean ran an asphalt road and driveway paving business in Nashville for decades. He also avoided publicity and rarely accompanied his wife to public events. According to Parton, he saw her perform only once. She also said in interviews that even though it appeared they spent little time together, it was because nobody saw him publicly. Dean often visited Dollywood by himself and toured the park unrecognized. Dolly commented on Dean's romantic side, saying that he did spontaneous things to surprise her and sometimes wrote poems for her. In 2011, she said, quote, "We're really very proud of our marriage. It's the first for both of us and the last," end quote. On May 6th of 2016, she announced that she and Dean would renew their vows in honor of their 50th wedding anniversary later that month. Parton and Dean moved into their longtime home on 75 acres in Brentwood, Tennessee in 1972. They kept ownership of their prior home in Antioch, Nashville for several years. Parton's uncle Dot Watson and Dean built the home in 1970 and 1971. Her brothers Denver and Randy also worked on the structure. Several years later, they added a guest house to the property. Dean and Parton lived there together for more than 52 years until his death. Although they never had children due to Parton's health issues, Parton and Dean helped raise some of her younger siblings in Nashville. Her nieces and nephews and later grandnieces and grandnephews referred to them as Uncle Peepaw and Aunt Granny. The latter name was later used for one of Parton's Dollywood restaurants. Parton was also the godmother of singer, songwriter, and actress Miley Cyrus, as we've mentioned before. Dean died in Nashville, Tennessee on March 3rd of 2025 at the age of 82. She had health concerns, as mentioned in that post with her husband and not being able to have children. She was diagnosed with endometritis and had a partial hysterectomy in her late 30s, which affected her ability to have children and caused some weight gain. She also noted that throughout her life she had contended with kidney stones. In May of 2026, Dolly said she was responding well to treatment after her immune and digestive systems, in her word, quote, got all out of whack, quote. In an interview with People magazine on August 21st, 2026, shortly before her last hospitalization, Parton said she had been having, quote, hard times with her health and had overlooked some issues while caring for her husband. This all led to her passing, which we went over at the beginning of the episode. It was noted that a small private funeral will be held for Parton's immediate family at her request. Parton will be laid to rest next to her husband in a mausoleum at Woodlawn Memorial Park in Nashville. There have been many tributes dedicated to Dolly Parton in her passing. The Academy of Country Music said that Parton, quote, leaves behind a legacy that reaches far beyond the stage, end quote. The Grand Ole Opry called her, quote, a true country music icon. U.S. President Donald Trump issued a statement describing her as, quote, one of the greatest country singers and far beyond ever, and ordered flags at half-mast for a week. Multiple state governors issued similar orders. Former presidents Joe Biden, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and Bill Clinton, as well as numerous politicians, also released tributes to Parton. Though I do find that interesting because I did read something today that said that she never really wanted to get involved with politics just because she recognized that automatically split half of your audience away from you. So it was something that she didn't really publicly talk about with politics. So it's interesting that so many political figures have come out and paid tribute to her. As well as those political figures, figures from entertainment, film, and public life likewise paid tribute. Flowers were left at her Hollywood Walk of Fame star, her Walk of Fame plaque in Nashville, her statue in downtown Sevierville, and her home in Brentwood. Books of condolence were opened at the Country Music Hall of Fame. In the evening following Dolly's death, the Empire State Building and the Willis Tower were lit in pink at 9:25 for her song 9 to 5 in her honor. The following day, the band of the Coldstream Guards played 9 to 5 during the changing of the guard ceremony at Buckingham Palace. A petition to posthumously name Nashville International Airport in her honor surpassed 70,000 signatures after her death. So a huge music legacy left here. But probably more impressive than her music career is everything that she achieved off the stage, starting with education and literacy. In 1988, Dolly founded the nonprofit Dollywood Foundation, originally to improve educational outcomes among children in her home county of Sevier County, Tennessee. Among the foundation's early efforts was the Buddy Program, in which 7th and 8th grade students paired with a friend and pledged to support each other in remaining in school and graduating from high school. Students who graduated received $500. The dropout rate among participating classes fell from 35% to 6%, and the program encouraged the community to develop additional initiatives to sustain the improvement. Parton's literacy program, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, is also a part of the Dollywood Foundation, and it was founded in 1995 in honor of her father, who never learned to read or write. It mails one book per month to each enrolled child from the time of their birth until they enter kindergarten. Over 1,600 local communities provide the Imagination Library to almost 850,000 children each month across the US, Canada, the UK, Australia, and Ireland. This is something that my kids have taken advantage of. My wife's a teacher, so we are very pro education, and the fact that she had this program, we signed my kids up and they received a book from the time they were born all the way up until kindergarten. So my youngest just started kindergarten, so she's going to stop receiving those books. But such a great thing to do, and it didn't cost us a cent. And we have the means to pay for books. We do pay for books still. It's not an issue, but the fact that there is a program out there for kids that maybe don't have the money for those books, and maybe that's their form of entertainment because maybe they don't have access to TVs or internet. So now they get a book, and you get a new book every month. And it's such a great program that she started, and one that has impacted my family's life in a positive way. In 2006, Parton published a cookbook, Dolly's Dixie Fixins, Love, Laughter, and Lots of Good Food, with all the proceeds going towards that Imagination Library. In February of 2018, she donated her 100 millionth free book, a copy of Parton's children's picture book, Coat of Many Colors, to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and was honored by the library on account of the charity sending out its 100 millionth book. On the 30th anniversary of the program, Roxanne Owens provided a summary of the impact of the initiative for children's in libraries, the Journal of the Association of Library Service to Children. Starting on February 24th of 2022, employees of Dollywood, a theme park co-owned by Parton's entertainment company, who decided to go to college would have their tuition fees, books, and other associated fees paid for by the theme park. In October of 2022, it was revealed that Parton had been paying for the band uniforms for a number of Tennessee high schools for numerous years. In February of 2025, Indiana Governor Mike Braun declined to continue a state 50% match for Parton's Imagination Library. Dollywood Foundation President Jeff Conyers said, quote, "We are hopeful that Governor Braun and the Indiana legislature will continue this vital investment by restoring the state's funding match for local Imagination Library programs," end quote. Braun would soon afterwards task his wife Maureen with finding ways to keep the Imagination Library's Indiana chapter alive. For her work in literacy, Parton received awards including the Association of American Publishers Honor Award in 2000, Good Housekeeping Seal of Approval in 2001, and Parents and Teachers National Center Child and Family Advocacy Award in 2003. The Chartered Institute of Library and Information Professionals awarded Parton an honorary fellowship in 2024. Education wasn't the only thing Dolly Parton supported. She also supported healthcare and medical research. The Dollywood Foundation, funded from Parton's profits, has brought jobs and tax revenues to a previously depressed region. Parton also worked to raise money for other causes, including the American Red Cross and HIV/AIDS related charities. In December of 2006, Parton pledged $500,000 toward a proposed $90 million hospital and cancer center to be constructed in Sevierville, in the name of Robert F. Thomas, the physician who delivered her. She announced a benefit concert to raise additional funds for the project. The concert played to about 8,000 people. Parton was a generous donor to the Vanderbilt University Medical Center. Among her gift was a contribution to the Monroe Carroll Jr. Children's Hospital at Vanderbilt Pediatric Cancer Program in honor of a friend, Naji Abamrad, and her niece, Hannah Dennison, who was successfully treated for leukemia as a child at the Children's Hospital. Parton also made generational and transformational donations of undisclosed amounts to the East Tennessee Children's Hospital. According to the hospital's president and chief executive officer, the hospital was later renamed the Dolly Parton Children's Hospital. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, Parton donated $1 million towards research at Vanderbilt Universal Medical Center and encouraged those who can afford it to make similar donations. She said, quote, "I'm a very proud girl today to know I had anything at all to do with something that's going to help us through this crazy pandemic," end quote. Her donation funded the critical early stages of development of the Moderna vaccine. In March of 2021, Parton was vaccinated against COVID-19 at Vanderbilt University. She labeled her social media accounts on the occasion, "Dolly gets a dose of her own medicine." Parton strongly encouraged everyone to get vaccinated when eligible and performed a song celebrating her vaccination set to the tune of her song Jolene. She's also been a great contributor to disaster relief and community aid. In response to the 2016 Great Smoky Mountain wildfires, Parton was one of the country music artists who participated in a telethon to raise money for victims of the fires. This was held in Nashville on December 9th. Parton hosted her own telethon for the victims on December 13th and reportedly raised around $9 million. Her fund, the My People Fund, provided $1,000 a month for 6 months to over 900 families affected by the wildfires, culminating in $5,000 to each home in the final month due to increased fundraising, totaling $10,000 per family. In 2018, the FBI honored Parton for her wildlife aid, awarding her the 2018 Director's Community Leadership Award in a ceremony at FBI headquarters. The honor was bestowed by Director Christopher Wray and was accepted on Parton's behalf by David Dotson, the CEO of the Dollywood Foundation. The impact of the fund's financial relief for the 2016 wildfire victims was studied by University of Tennessee College of Social Work professor Stasia West, who examined the impact of cash transfers on poverty alleviation. West surveyed 100 recipients of the emergency relief funds in April of 2017 on topics including housing, financial impact, physical and emotional health, and sources of support, with a follow-up survey conducted in December of 2017. West found that the My People Fund, in tandem with traditional disaster response, gave families the ability to make decisions that were most beneficial to them, and concluded that unconditional cash support may be more beneficial for disaster relief than conditional financial support. It wasn't just wildfires either. In the aftermath of 2024 Hurricane Helene, Parton announced a donation of $2 million to relief efforts, $1 million personally, and another $1 million through her various businesses and the Dollywood Foundation. She's also been a big advocate for animal welfare and conservation. In 2003, her efforts to preserve the bald eagle through the American Eagle Foundation Sanctuary at Dollywood earned her the Partnership Award from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. In 2006, Parton and Emmylou Harris allowed use of their music in a PETA ad campaign that encouraged pet owners to keep their dogs indoors rather than chained outside. She was also an advocate for LGBTQ+, though often politically neutral. As I had mentioned before, Parton was known for her long history of openly supporting the gay community, and she publicly came out in support of same-sex marriage in 2009. She also voiced her support for the trans community after a series of anti-trans measures came into law in Tennessee in 2023. The Tennessee Equality Project described her as, quote, "the outsider who made it big by being herself and leading with love," end quote. They said the LGBTQ community, quote, "always felt that she had our back and it mattered," end quote. So I know that this got to be a really long episode, but we are talking about a very iconic person. And again, it can't be stated enough that not only her impact on the stage, but I'm more impressed by her impact off the stage. She used her platform and business sense to be able to propel herself into a position to where she could help so many people. Look at all of the things that she was an advocate for. Look at the things she did for our children with the books, and for people that were in the roughest moments of their lives, and she reached out a helping hand. Look at the supporting nature that she gives to those that feel outcasted by their peers sometimes. And she embraced everybody and always was positive about everything. She was a true treasure of a person. I'm sure she didn't live a perfect life. Nobody lives a perfect life. But the world would maybe be a better place if we all tried to model ourselves off of Dolly Parton. Just for the fact that I read today that she could have easily been a billionaire. But she gave all that up to help people. And she still had, I'm sure, more than enough money to live however she wanted to. And if more people did that, just helped out when they could, it sets a great example for people. And she is the perfect example of someone coming into a lot of fame and a lot of money, but never forgetting about the people that do not have the things. She always tried to help. You heard stories about her buying band uniforms for kids and all the books, as again I mentioned, that just the whole education effort, looking out for the animals and looking out for our future. That's a long lasting impact that will last for a lifetime for a lot of us. She looked out for our education. She looked out for nature, preserving nature for times to come. She looked out for people's rights. It makes a big difference when you have someone of a platform of hers in your corner. And she is definitely going to be missed. She was such a treasure here. Until doing this, I didn't realize her international impact. I had always known that she was an American treasure, but to know that she had an impact in the UK, both on a music level and a personal level, and Canada, and she impacted around the world. And she always looked out for everybody. And that was great, and she will very much be missed. So thank you for hanging in tight with me this episode. Again, I know it was a lengthy one, but such a life and legacy to go through. You couldn't sum this up any quicker than what we went through, because she deserved every second of this episode and then some. As I always do, I send out my thoughts and prayers to her family, her friends, and her fans, and hope that we continue to recognize the kindness and the ability to look out for others that she leaves behind for us. So until next time, I'm Gibbs. Stay safe and be kind.